won't. Well, if they do, you won't see it. But Greg, thank you for being on. So if you want to check him out really, really quickly, he's at GR36 on Twitter, gr36.com, or byodpodcast.com. That's Bring Your Own Device Podcast.
It certainly is.
Thank you for being on.
You're very welcome. You've taught me the greatest thing on the internet at the moment.
Yeah, so you know what? Let's actually. So I have one of the staples of the Snappy-Tech podcast is a really bad joke at the start of most episodes, because no way to loosen the mood like a really bad joke. So we are happy to announce that we will actually be replacing Google Search as the default search engine on iPhones. Now you will only be able to search through YouTube videos whenever you open Safari and go for a search. So see that in iOS 11. However, first, Android O is coming tomorrow, which has been timed with the solar eclipse. And I put in the show notes here because, the sun is kind of a circle and it's Android O. Get it? I'm not even sure if that was a coincidence or not, but it was one of those things where I just kind of saw it and I was like, I really hope someone in marketing isn't being paid for that idea. However, before we get into the tech side of this, I just want to discuss what we've been talking about pre-show, which is if you go into TweetDeck or Twitter or whatever and just type in the words eclipse animals, or if you go to Greg's Twitter now and see the moment.
I've just created a moment. I'm not entirely sure whether I did it correctly because this is the first time I've done it. But yeah, it literally is the funniest thing on Twitter right now. There's just loads of, I'm convinced people are actually serious. Is people thinking that their animals are going to go crazy during the eclipse.
Yeah, so this is followed with a bunch of like PSAs and stuff like that. Just people being like, whatever happens, make sure your animals are not outside during this solar eclipse. Because apparently, like, they've never seen shade before. They're going to go a bit stir crazy. I don't know what people are expecting. But, animals inside. Like, you have solar eclipse glasses. Why doesn't your pet dog, huh? That's a real question here.
That's like $1 billion idea we should have created. Eclipse glasses for dogs.
I think someone actually, because I think I saw like one link.
We need to do it. Let's do it.
Oh God, it's just I've been following this for the last like 2 days, and it's just so good. It's just how did we live before this? Like that's what I want to know.
I just don't know. Obviously, every single animal is going to go, where is that burning thing in the sky gone?
And then they're going to go crazy, and then there's nothing we can do.
No, it's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine.
Humanity's stupidity never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, you're actually right. You are actually right. I'm actually amazed by people's stupidity every new year, but this is like a new one to me.
Oh God, it's just I don't even know where to take this conversation outside of just if you own, like, TweetDeck is probably the best way to do it, but I'm sure if you type it in on like the Twitter app, it will come up. Just eclipse animals, and it will bring up every tweet that has the word eclipse and animals in it. And there are people who, there are so many here, but it's not just trolls. People are fully tweeting like PSAs about keeping animals indoors during the eclipse, watching out for animals freaking out during the. It's just golden content. This is when I think humanity has hit a new level of evolution right here.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we've just moved on. We've transcended onto a new plane of existence where maybe they will go crazy. Who knows? I mean, this could all be fake news for all we know it. I mean, God. After all, truth is what you make it.
Oh, God. Is it though? Is it really?
To be fair, yeah, I don't really know what is going on with the world. There's like Nazis are back, and the animals are going crazy. The sun's going to go away for like a minute or whatever. So
yeah, it lasts it doesn't last very long. And so actually, this probably kind of ties in. So if you want to find out more about the eclipse, this is some next level segue in right here. If you go to android.com/eclipse, which is where Google wants you to go. Their intention is to really get you to watch that solar eclipse, because right after it, they're planning on showing off Android O, which at this point might as well be Android Moon, I guess.
Yeah. Android O.
It's a difficult one because the letter O doesn't allow for many desserts. So Oreo is the big one, and then like
if they don't do Oreo, there's something seriously wrong.
it's going to be like so. There's an issue here, right? Because Oreo is if the brand deal works, right?
Yeah.
And N was supposed to be something until the deal fell through, if I recall correctly. It was supposed to be Nutella. That's what it was.
I was going to say I was guessing Nutella.
And then that deal fell through, with Nougat being their sort of backup for that. If the deal for O falls through, they don't really have much to back themselves up with. They have oatmeal cookie, and that's about it.
Definitely go for orange sherbet.
Yes. Oh, that's a good call. I like it. But that's then too. See, here's the issue, right? Because it has to be like it's more or less one word.
Yeah.
With sort of key lime pie being the only one who really breaks that rule. But it's just we live in an exciting age
where we get far too excited over the names of things.
Yes,
and even Google employees troll us on a regular basis.
God. Yeah, it's it was back like 5 years ago. I used to use it as a sign of just how geeky I was, but I could recite. I still can. It's I can recite the list of Android version names. From C up until N, until L even. N. That is what I meant. Up until N, because I can't alphabet apparently.
We all know you were going A, B, C, D in your head just then, weren't you?
It was, but it's slightly faster than that. It was like, come on, quick. What's the letter before O? It's what we all do, isn't it? It's crazy. No one can. I feel like there are very few people in this world where if you went, give me the 18th letter of the alphabet, they'd like spout out the letter without having to go through the alphabet in their head.
And if you can do that, ladies and gentlemen, tweet at Snappy-Tech.
Yeah, Snappy-Tech. Let us know. You can be a guest next week, and we can fully abuse your ability.
Letters of the alphabet.
Oh man, that's a really great party trick for about 2 minutes, and then it's not anymore.
And then it was like, shut up, alphabet boy, get lost.
Yeah. But yeah, so my party trick, I guess, used to be that I could recite all the letters, which I still kind of can. I feel like I'd probably miss a letter at some point, but outside of that, like I know them all, and it's just a bit, as I get older, it feels more and more concerning when it does. Like, yeah, this is a thing I can do. Like, it's not like a handstand, right? Where at 85 I'll be doing handstands. I'll be like, look how great I am. At 85, I'll be reciting all the versions of Android, and I'm like, someone please just end it now.
You'll have to go through the alphabet like 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that is a point. What do they do once they hit Z? Do they go like AA, or do they go on to numbers?
They go back to the beginning again.
They go like 1T1.
Yeah, I mean, at least they do in letters. So there gets to a stage where numbers, it just gets a bit ridiculous. I mean, even on iOS 11 or like the iPhone 7, there becomes a stage where you've just got to get rid of numbers and just call it the new version of Android or whatever, hasn't there? But we've got a few letters to go yet.
Yeah, and it is slightly, like, even that slightly concerns me, because I think the MacBook, I'm not sure how much of an issue that the MacBook and the iPad Pro are the two that really intrigue me on this. And I know you're a big fan of Apple products, so maybe you can enlighten me on the buying process.
If when it comes to, iMacs and MacBooks and stuff, I've been doing it for years, and I'm not going to lie, it's ridiculously complicated. It's not complicated if you want a new one, because you just go and buy the new one. But when there's like overlaps, or you want to buy something maybe slightly used and stuff, you have to rely on version numbers. Which is frankly ridiculous.
Because Razer have done a similar thing where their laptop is called like the Razer Stealth, the Ultrabook Stealth, whatever, something like that. The Razer Blade Stealth, that's one. But that was released in 2014, and every year they release a new Razer Blade Stealth. And the third time round, I'm like, really, guys? Like, put something in there that makes it at least mildly like, just anything, right? I don't want to go, oh yeah, I want a Razer Blade Stealth, and then I'm either getting something that's $5,000 and was released 2 weeks ago, or is like 500 quid and from 2014. because it's hard to tell what's a deal and what's just an old product
I
at
agree.
that point.
I mean, on the flip side of that, you could go all Samsung and have like the Galaxy S Note Active, Fascinate, LTE.
Oh man, it's
and just put loads of buzzwords in there.
There's, I'm kind of glad that, and I think Google made a deal of this as well when they released the Pixel last year. And actually, really quickly taking this back into tech, they might announce Pixel 2 tomorrow. We're not sure. There have been so many leaks, but it's due sometime soon. Having destroyed my phone, I'm not sure if you saw my Twitter, but I managed to ruin my phone like 2 days before I came here, Greg. I dropped it.
Completely ruined it. Do you know what? It must be the week, because I dropped my phone, but luckily mine survived.
So
I've just written a post actually on my blog about just throwing my phone across a car park by accident.
Oh God, it's for me it's going to Georgia, because I came here about almost exactly a year ago. It was like, it's a year minus like 3 weeks or something. And 2 days before I came to Georgia last year, the camera on my phone just gave up. The rear-facing camera got some lines across it, and just really bizarre. So, I put it down to whatever, and there's a 6-video series on my issues with Samsung customer support. I've
had a similar product with rear-facing cameras, not of my phone, of my missus's phone. We had, I think, at least 3 replaced, where the rear camera just stopped working.
Wow.
I think that was the S5,
right?
Think.
So I never ended up getting mine fixed. Fun fact. Actually, no. That's there's a 6. I'll come over that briefly in a second. Point being, that camera broke like 2 days before I went to Georgia last year, and then 2 days before I go to Georgia this year, so last Friday, I have just sort of finished helping someone set up their online business. I take 2 steps out of their house on my way home, and I just hear an almighty just like thud. Right, and my phone's in a case not to protect it, but to already hide the cracks on the back of the device. Right, I've had this device for a year and a half, and I broke the back like 3 months ago, and that was a point where I was like, you know what? There's no point having it caseless at this point. I prefer my phone's caseless, but at the point where the rear was shattered, I was like, you know what? Screw it, I'll get a case. My phone fell face first onto the concrete, and you can see where it impacted like 3 separate points. It's just got massive gouges out of the glass. And I'm just like, it's a Georgia thing. I just can't go to Georgia with this phone. Because it's the same phone both times as well. I'm just like, this phone just really doesn't want to go to Georgia.
Yeah, so much so it just makes a bid for freedom. It's like, no!
What was really bizarre...
So you're buying a Pixel now, yeah?
So I'm probably picking, and so linking this back to the Pixel story, I had been planning on picking up a Pixel 2 once that drops. So my hope is they announce a Pixel 2 tomorrow. Because if not, there's a lot of waiting.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got your fingers firmly crossed. I think they've got to try and steal a march on the iPhone, surely. I mean, the rumors are really weird and stretched out, and there might be like a version with loads of bezels, and then a version based on this V30 that LG are doing and stuff.
Yeah.
But, so they've got to at least kind of semi show it off, or if not to get people, even if it doesn't launch for another month or whatever, they've got to like demo it somehow, surely.
Yeah, and it was released around my birthday last year, which is September 24th. So it's about a month from now.
That's like 3 days before mine. Wow.
Is it? We should meet up. We should do something. Quick, say our plans to the world.
Yes. Does that mean I now have to?
I don't know. If even not, like we're probably going to get tweet about it like 2 days before my birthday, being like, "You guys are meeting up, right?"
From our legions of fans.
Yeah, we're going to both have forgotten by then, and we're going to be like, "Well, I guess we are." But yeah, so it releases because coincidentally, right, there are 3 things that release around my birthday. Well, it used to be 2 things. It's now 3 things. It used to be FIFA, the new version of FIFA, roughly around my birthday. The new iPhone, roughly around my birthday, and the Pixel was also roughly around my birthday last year. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I really hope that it's, if anything, it's slightly earlier, because I just want to get a hold of that phone. Damn it.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And I mean, it'd be stupid for them to waste the chance and not, at least in some demo videos or whatever, show off the hardware to go with the software. I mean, that's the logical thing to do, but Google are not always the most logical people.
No, and it just infuriates me. It's just, I'm just like, guys, like, there have been so many occasions where I've just been like, Google, all you have to do, like, it's really, did I just trigger someone's voice assistant? Is that yours? Because it wasn't mine.
Nope.
Was it mine? It might have been mine. Oh, it's my Chromebook. I just triggered my Chromebook's voice assistant. Thanks, Google, for really having my back there, I guess. But there are occasions I'm like, guys, I feel like every company has that moment, and I think a lot of companies will they make stupid mistakes, but we all see as being really stupid because so many companies are in their massive filter bubble that we all kind of turn around and go, really? A board of people decided that was a good idea. Like, that's what happened here. And for occasions where Google do that, I'm like, guys, come on. And I just triggered my voice assistant again. I'm just like, guys, come on.
Yeah, I've had similar discussions before with a couple of people that use Android. I mean, it almost feels like everything's kind of designed or released by committee now, doesn't it? And I guess that's the trials and tribulations of trying to appeal to everybody and having a board. Without getting too deep into the subject of Google and diversity, but having a board that's relatively diverse and trying to appeal to all markets, if you like. Yeah,
and I was listening to This Week in Tech, which is one of my favorite tech podcasts to listen to. It's one of I really got off of podcasts about 2 years ago, and then about a year ago I got back into them, primarily because of Twit. But sort of they had this discussion. They had a security person on, I can't remember their name, a couple of weeks ago, and they were discussing how it's just a really dumb idea to not use a Pixel if you're going for Android, because even Samsung will take so long to update their devices that it's just ridiculous, even from a security standpoint. I think my S7 Edge has actually currently been tricked into being an S8, which is a story for a different time. To an extent that I got an email from Samsung like 2 days ago asking how I like my S8. And I'm like, haha, psych. But even that is on sort of a 2-month-old security patch because, Samsung just don't push them. And I'm just like, guys, like, come on. It's really not that hard. It's a security. It's not a feature. It's not a chock full feature update, right? It is literally just a security patch. And I'm like, guys, come on, just do it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that. I mean, Android O is supposed to make that spectacularly easier, I suppose. But it all depends on whether manufacturers actually use the things that Google put in. I mean, they're going on about this kind of almost dual boot thing. So your updates happen in the background and stuff like that. And allegedly, Google are supposed to be able to update the system without screwing up anything on top. So if Samsung still choose to put all their skins on top, they can still update the system. But you're still ultimately beholden to not only the manufacturer, Samsung, HTC, LG, etc., but also ridiculous amounts of carriers. If we want to segue into the Essential phone,
they brilliant segue. I love it.
They've been delayed by over a month because of carrier bugs, because they've had to kind of disperse this phone out to carriers and stuff like that. Even though it's only going to be sold on Sprint, it's sold unlocked, so they have to make sure it works on all of the American carriers and stuff. So even if you're not even selling it to them, you're still beholden to them to squash bugs and stuff in modem firmware and stuff if you want it, like, your users to be able to use it.
I think we should take a minute to congratulate Sprint and Essential at this point, because there is more or less zero. I think there's one app, if I recall correctly, on the Essential phone.
Sure.
If that, there is basically zero bloatware on this phone, and I'm like, you guys did a good job. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well done.
there's some kind of debate on whether that's intentional or a bit forced, that they just didn't have time. I think Andy Rubin wanted to do more sort of AI stuff on the phone, like smart replies and stuff to messages, but just purely didn't have time. But yeah, that's the way to do it, is buy something that has pure stock, unaltered Android on it, and it should really be the only way to do it. But such as Samsung, they have their fans somewhere, I'm led to believe.
Yes, yeah, and I was very adamant. Like, even when I had my issues with customer service, and I actually I was at an event. I forget, it was it was like a communications expo, and Vodafone were there. And as part of Vodafone being there, it was like the week after the S8 was announced. So they had a Samsung representative with the S8, and the only Samsung DeX in the UK at that time, at least. It was to such an extent they refused to let anyone touch it, because they were like, if this thing breaks, we don't have another one.
We're screwed.
That they'd been talking about. They had there were Samsung employees who'd bought them from the US and were having them shipped over, because they just weren't available in the UK at that time.
Yeah. Wow.
And I personally found it hilarious. I'm sure they didn't. So I talked to that guy, and I was like, don't get me wrong, the S7 Edge is sort of my favorite phone I've ever owned. The customer support and the people behind Samsung seem really shady.
Yeah.
Like, that's my issue with it. Like, the phone is great, and if I could have the phone without having to give money to Samsung, better still. But that's not an option you get very frequently.
No, unfortunately not, no. Yeah, I guess it's Samsung are so massive and so just all-encompassing. Their customer service has to deal with everything from washing machines to smartphones to TVs, I guess, and it's just ridiculous. Printers, yeah. I'm sure they make a lot other things.
Yeah, I was at a set. So I attended like 4 shows in 3 weeks or something. It was really hectic. When I get back to England, I'm also attending some ridiculous number of events. And at one of the events was the Samsung printing people, and they were like, most people at these shows like hand out chocolate and stuff like that. And oh my god, fidget spinners! I got so many fidget spinners. I have an Intel fidget spinner at home.
That's because they were like, this craze is over. Quick, get rid of them. Get them gone.
I wouldn't be surprised if they flogged more fidget spinners than they did i9 processors. It's just. I brought it up, and they got really defensive about their high-end processors, like really defensive.
I bet they did. So you're seeing the Essential phone. I mean, we haven't really heard whether it's going to be out over here yet, but are you not? Does it fill you with desire to get the Essential phone as opposed to a Pixel?
It's close. I think that's my big thing, right? I think I'm going to wait until the Pixel is, and never. I'm not going to buy or not buy something on the rumors, even though they're 99% accurate at this point. Google might somehow manage to pull something out of their sleeve.
Yeah.
Actually, I just got a message from Paul, who's the sort of regular guest on this show. He just texted me saying, "Look at the chat, damn it." He points out the S8 would have been so easy to steal at that event. He makes a point. It was, the S8 they didn't care about because they had like 3 of those, and the guy really wasn't paying attention at the best of times because he was just so busy defending the DeX. But yeah, it's a matter of, we'll find out what they say. The lack of a headphone jack, even though I use Bluetooth headphones primarily, I have a pair of Jbuds. X3s, I love them. However, I use accessories that require a headphone jack. I have, actually, I say I have. I'm still waiting for. I kickstarted something almost a year ago now because it was more or less on my birthday last year. I kickstarted a 3D printer that uses your phone as the sort of base for it, and then uses sort of light sensitive filament. So lights up the phone screen to harden the resin and in different parts, and that requires a headphone jack because it plugs in from an auxiliary cable. And there are things like that, and sort of devices that I use with my phone that I'm just not sure whether or not they'd work without the headphone jack. Sort of if you had just the dongle instead, and it's one of those things where I'm like, as much as I really want this Pixel 2, I also really want to use this 3D printer I paid for. So,
yeah, there are things like that you don't really realize. I mean, obviously I've got an iPhone 7, so I was like, screw the headphone jack. I've never really, because yeah, like you, I use Bluetooth headphones, but there's just the occasional time where I'm like at the gym and I'm like, I'm going to just use my, oh no, it's a lightning cable. You can't plug it into anything.
I think that annoys me more than anything else. Not necessarily, I think Lightning / USB-C, right, whichever way you go, is the idea that everything else already has an Ethernet cable, a headphone jack.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
Right. It's not like we could, if every computer that was ever made suddenly had a Lightning port or a headphone jack, or a USB-C port, I'd be like, perfect, this is great, not an issue in the world, but they don't. And
it will take years for them ever to have any. So yeah,
exactly.
I suppose USB-C is a little bit better than Lightning. There is at least a few computers out there that have got it, or you could use an adapter. But the chances of it actually happening and carrying a dongle around with you, #dongle life, is
I know, it's just crazy.
Remote.
And I think I did a video. Actually, no, it was part of a tech news roundup where I sort of took the mick out of Apple, because you have to, right? Because there was a quarter where their sort of most expanding product category was dongles, because as they released the iPhone 7, they released like 8 different dongles, and I was like, Apple have gone from a phone company to a dongle company. That's just all they make now.
I'm just going to shake my head in disgust. I do not agree with this statement.
Though my biggest disappointment, and I think it's again, it's on both sides, is that they don't have a USB-C or Lightning to headphone jack adapter, right? Because they have it the other way around, right? If you want to plug your headphones into your phone, you've got an adapter for that. But what if you want to plug your USB-C headphones into a laptop?
Yeah,
they need both ends.
Yeah, and I think I'm right in thinking that, is it the U11 hasn't got a headphone jack either? And I think I'm right in thinking the USB-C headphones that are in the box don't actually work anywhere else other than with the phone. And I think because they use some kind of proprietary technology in it, to something to do with the shape of your ears or something. I'm
because they like blast sound, they blast something into your ears and use that. Samsung has like a tuning service, but the HTC does it automatically through Magic. Magic,
yes. So what you really don't want is a world where everyone moves to USB-C, but they're all different. There's no kind of standard for them to work across the board.
And OnePlus has been hit by a lot of backlash for that exact reason, because their USB-C isn't really USB-C, or at least it wasn't for the OnePlus 3.
Yes, it was a USB-C like port, but with the wrong kind of controller on the board or something. So it was ridiculously slow.
Yeah, it was actually micro USB more or less, but just a USB-C port, which meant that whenever you went to use that cable anywhere else, everything else just went, "What are you doing? This isn't what?" Just so confused.
Yeah, and I guess that's the joys of USB-C. It's just not quite ready for the prime time. The reviews and stuff for the Essential phone have been a bit meh, and it's like $700 as well. This phone is never going to sell more than just to like complete nerds, is it really?
I think this is Andy Rubin's response to the lack of a Nexus line, but I'm not sure why, because we have Pixel instead, right?
Yeah,
because I think if Google had stopped making phones altogether, this would have probably been the Pixel, right? This would have been instead of the Pixel, I should say, right? Everyone would have been buying this instead of the Nexus. But the Pixel exists, which means this fills a hole that doesn't exist.
Because it's a high-end Android phone, which there's a very much a need for, because everybody sort of gravitates towards the Apex phone, if you like, the one that people buy when they've graduated through a few entry-level phones. And it's probably more expensive than much better phones out there and can't do as much. Especially the camera is
The camera was interesting. There was,
Yeah,
I watched, I think it was The Verge's review of it.
yeah,
Was just the funniest, where they sort of, they cut through the review like halfway through and they're like, well, you know how companies claim that they're going to push it with an update? Essential did.
yeah. I mean, it was The Verge that had this great big in-depth post about how good the camera was going to be. It was going to use 2 lenses and have this really good technology, which sounded exactly like what Huawei were doing like 3 years ago, where it takes a black and white photo and a color photo and mixes them together. But they were doing some magic in the background, and yeah, it's just a bit meh. It sounds like software could fix it, but whether they've got the smarts to do it as a startup that's worth $1 billion, I don't know.
That $1 billion valuation really is. I just look at that like, how did anyone get that? Like,
a company that has nothing, has produced nothing, has sold nothing, and probably won't sell more than a few tens of thousands, I would imagine, is valued at $1 billion.
Yeah, this is a company that will sell to maybe me. I don't know. Depends on how the Pixel 2 goes. But I don't deem myself a normal everyday consumer, right?
No, exactly.
A normal everyday consumer hears Android and thinks Samsung or Google, right? Everything else is like, oh, HTC make a phone. That's not Android, is it? That's something else, right? And especially with these heavy skins, they all look so different that you can I forgive people for looking at HTC and being like, wait, that runs the same operating system as my Samsung. I'm like, yeah, basically the same. It just looks a bit different.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, back in the day when I was worked in good old Carphone warehouse, the amount of people that used to just go, I want the latest Galaxy. That was it. They had no idea of what it runs or whatever. This phone is not going to appeal to everyday people. It's going to be one of them people that'll go, wow, what's that? And you're going to go, yeah, it's the Essential phone. They're going to go, all right, okay, and pull out their Galaxy S whatever and carry on.
And it's the thing that really sells me on it is that when people I know are sort of tech geeks, I see them buying phones and being so excited about something. That's when I know that it has no chance of success. That is the moment I'm like, yeah, all of the geeks are excited, which means normal people just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, that was the history of the Nexus line, probably up until about the Nexus 4-ish, where it became sort of more retail available, and was the tail of OnePlus until the OnePlus 5, really. Yeah. Where it's kind of made headlines, if you like. So maybe that's their plan, to weather the storm and hopefully pick up kind of a more mainstream user later on. Who knows? It's
just, oh man, it's interesting. I keep looking away from the chat. I should probably engage with it a bit more. Paul has been hard at work conversing with us. He points out that Ethernet on a phone would be great, but Ethernet on all laptops is a good start, which is a good point. And then he also points out that Snappy-Tech is, by I guess by some definition, $1 billion channel. I feel like we've produced more. Well, not anymore, but we had produced more than Essential had up to a certain point, right? Come on, let's be real.
Definitely, you've probably got more income revenue than them.
Yeah, actually, the phones are for sale now. So the moment they sell like 5 of those, then they've outdone us.
Yeah,
but until then. Marquez Brownlee probably bought 5 on his own, if we're all being real for a second here.
Yeah, probably.
Seeing that guy drop however much it was for like 6 of the red helium phones was just a bit much.
I suppose you can do that when you can buy a Tesla, and I mean that guy gets like millions and millions and millions and millions of views, doesn't he? So
yeah, he is. He's I think the second off. I think actually me and Paul again were discussing this a few, and we were just like we weren't upset. Again, this is the huge tech geek in us speaking out here, right? As opposed to the person who understands how normal people work. But Unbox Therapy, a channel that I also kind of like, that started off a bit more techie and has now gone into sort of also a bit more mainstream, as some would sort of refer to it. He covers, he covered the Essential phone, coincidentally. But he'll talk about like coffee machines and water coolers and stuff, and he has more subscribers than Linus Tech Tips, which for me is sort of one of my favorite sort of tech channels to watch. I'm like, that is crazy. Like, we have one channel over here, and I think this is the diversification over YouTube in general, where anyone has an equal voice. You're right. If everyone was reset to 0 subscribers right now, we'd all have the same voice, right? It'd carry the same weight. And so we see channels which, to me, I'm like, but why do people do that? And then I'm just like, I guess it's the public's desire, and it's the same reason that Jake Paul exists, right?
Yeah. I mean, my little boy, he is 6. Literally for the last 3 years, well, two years at least, he's been watching this channel called Ryan's Toys Review, and basically this kid just plays with toys, basically. And about 3 months ago, there was a big spread. I think it was in the Independent, I think, about this channel, and they literally make millions upon millions upon millions each year. They never pay for a toy because all the toy manufacturers send them these videos, and they just make a fortune just literally for this little kid that must be 6 or 7, just plays with toys. That's all he does.
I'm in the wrong business. We need to.
Yeah,
Paul, can we set this up? We need to switch it up a bit. We're gonna snappy toys. That's what we need.
I think it's all about just finding your market, isn't it, and doing what you do really well. I mean, there's the amount of channels that are out there that just build PCs. Like a good friend of mine, Beginner's Tech, builds PCs, and that's what people want. I mean, thank the Lord for YouTube. If you ever want to do anything, I mean, I've searched videos for like repairing my Dyson and stuff like that, and there's videos on there of like how to do everything and anything under the sun. So yeah, thank the Lord for YouTube.
It is there have been my dad has a interesting love for cars, in the sense that he spends more time under them than driving them. Right? He loves being.
I'm hoping repairing, not being run over by them. Yeah.
Yeah, repairing. Well, not necessarily repairing. It might be it's sort of improving in general, right? He just likes tinkering with cars more than he likes driving them. And he has a very similar thing where he'll just go on to YouTube and just look up really bizarre repairs that you'd never rationally do yourself, because you're spending like 6 hours of work for something that like has like 0.5% performance improvement, and you're like, it rationally doesn't make any sense, but you never know, right?
Yeah, you never know.
Oh man, it's crazy. And he's always had the idea of wanting to do a similar thing, because I think every category has this issue to some extent of finding content is easy. Finding high quality content is hard.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, when I was debating on buying my new microphone, check it out. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to grab something real quick. Right. Give me 2 seconds. I'm not sure. That sounds dirty. I don't know whether I want to let you grab something. Well, anyway, I was going to say the amount of videos that I watched on reviews was ridiculous when deciding to buy a microphone. Just the quality varies so much. I guess that's one of the beauties of YouTube. You can get really professionally done videos, and also people that can just produce stuff in their bedroom and just talk to it. And you have to watch loads of them to actually get a consensus across the board to make sure.
Hang on, stick my headphones in. So on the subject of Rode, I don't know, did I cut you off? You weren't saying anything, were you?
No, I was trying to fill quiet time.
This is the Greg Show.
Yeah, I could have just taken over. Oh my word, I missed an opportunity then. But right, George is fired.
But yeah, so these are...
What are you going to show me?
These are the ones I had on hand, right? I think that I've just remembered where another one is. I have so many Rode microphones. It's unreal. We have this one, this one. I have a Rode Reporter, which is in the other room. I literally ran in and grabbed as many as I saw and ran back. I have a Rode phone microphone, plugs into a headphone. Actually,
Yep.
That's a big reason I'm not going to be upgrading to a Pixel 2.
Because it plugs into a headphone jack.
I have a bunch of microphones that plug into the headphone jack that I use for
life.
Yeah. Oh God.
Embrace it.
And then I have sort of these as well, which is like a wireless kit. And I have been nagging. If you see me on Twitter, just nagging Rode and being like, guys, just release they have a lav kit that they haven't released yet. I'm like, guys, just release the lav kit. Just do it. Just do it. I really want that lav.
Yeah, I'm really happy with my microphone. It took a bit of getting used to, but I was just saying that the quality of YouTube videos just varies so much, and I'm always a bit dubious about whether what they're saying is correct. So you kind of have to get the consensus and watch ridiculous amounts of videos. But yeah, there's ridiculous amounts of things over there, or like this versus the Blue Yeti, and this versus the Snowball, and this versus the whatever, and yeah, it's just ridiculous. But they obviously get views.
Well, yeah, and it works, and that's sort of, that's kind of the way a lot of reviews are going as well, just in general, where they'll, a new phone will come out and they'll compare it against every other phone that currently exists, and they'll make each one its own video most of the time, and they'll, you spend 2 weeks going, S8 versus iPhone 7, S8 versus iPhone 7 Plus, S8, and you kind of keep that going.
And then you've got to do a speed test.
Then you have to do a speed test.
Open and close apps. And then you've got to do a camera test. And then you've got to do a selfie test. And then you've got to do a video test. And yeah, ridiculous.
It is not something that I find fun, to say the least.
That's why you're not making millions on YouTube.
Apparently, this is something I want to discuss with you. I have an issue, right? In the sense that there are things where I'm aware that, if I did a video about this right now, I guarantee you it would make more views than an average video. However, I don't feel like it doesn't sit well with me just making a video that goes with the trend, right? And it's difficult because as if it's a new phone and I'm reviewing it, fair enough, right? But I guarantee you I could have made some completely ridiculous BS video about fidget spinners when they were at the peak of their interest, and it would have gotten more views than a regular video of mine. It wouldn't even have had to be that good. I'd have stuck the word fidget spinners in the title 3 times, and it conjures up views. And it was just I really struggle with that. The balance between doing something that gets views and doing something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's definitely a fine line, and I guess most people hopefully find that balance somewhere. I don't agree with doing things just for cashing in, basically because the trend's hot. I would much rather do things for the love of doing it than anything else. A lot of YouTubers get are really disheartened because they don't get so many subscribers and they don't get views and they don't get this, that, and the other. And I always say to them, look, just keep doing what you're doing because you love doing it. Don't do it for any other reason, and hopefully they'll come, because eventually all those kind of gimmicky things catch up with you and people get a bit wise to it. And if you're doing one thing in a sea of others, then does that really matter?
And subscriber fatigue is a real issue, right? The idea that someone might subscribe, and it's something that a lot of Vine, when Vine was killed, I think it also killed YouTube a little bit, because all of the Viners just moved over to YouTube, and the idea of the whole subscriber fatigue is completely new to all of the Viners that now have YouTube accounts. But if you look at a channel like Marquez's, right? He has, what was it? I think Paul put it in the chat, 4.5 to 5 million subs, right? A lot of those 7, 8 years old, So a lot of those might not even watch his videos.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Actually, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I used to watch quite a few of his videos back in the day where I used to buy ridiculous amounts of Android phones, and I would presume I'm probably still subscribed, but I haven't watched one of his videos for more than a year, I would say. So yeah, it just goes to show that subscribers is not everything, doesn't it?
yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna have a look now.
because then you and sort of the other side of that being someone like Jake Paul, who jumped over from Vine, who now has like 15 million subs, but all of them are new, right? They're all 6 months old, so they're all watching his videos.
Yeah, it's a weird world, the world of YouTube, and I mean a lot of people's income has really died off since they've started. I mean, a lot of advertisers have pulled out because of things people say and whatever, which is probably a debate you don't really want to get into either, but maybe it'll clear some of the rubbish out.
Yes, that is the hope. And it's I'm just waiting for the next big platform. I'm waiting for the thing that takes over from YouTube, so I can jump over there and be like, hey, look, I'm here first.
Yeah, you've got to be right at the start of the wave, haven't you? You've got to be starting it right at the start and just cashing in, like I say, on your little niche market.
On the subject of cashing in, and slightly less of a niche market, but a market nonetheless, and I like how you immediately figured out where I was going. So if you're not on the spreadsheet right now, you can see where someone's clicked. If you watch live during the show, you can see the show notes. And so the moment I started cashing in, I could see Greg turn from our previous topic to clicking on the show notes for our current topic, which very well done. And I think that, if anything, that shows off how great a segue it was. Google are paying Apple $3 billion a year to stay the default search engine on iPhones, which is a lot of money.
It's not. It's really not.
Well, actually, no, it's not.
$3 billion. It's a lot of money when compared to what they paid in 2014, like you say, $1 billion. But $3 billion, I mean, I don't really know what Google get from search revenue and stuff, but I would imagine it's a damn sight more than $3 billion. Yeah. So it sounds like a good investment to me. I mean, it's I guess really from Apple's point of view, it's money for doing nothing. They don't really have to do anything. Google just wants to be the default search engine, so let's let them. I just wish that they would let Google be the default Maps application.
Oh, actually, that's one of the biggest reasons I have an Android phone, is just the fact that I can set the default apps. Like, yeah, no, that in itself sells it for me. The fact that I can have like any launcher, any SMS app, any Maps app, that on its own is like, yes, that is what I want. Yeah,
it's a tried and tested argument, really, isn't it? Yeah, I agree. I mean, Google are still there or thereabouts with iOS. They've always obviously been in the pocket of Apple, or you could argue either way. Vic Guntara was the kind of spearhead of getting Google and stuff on the iPhone back in the day. But yeah, I mean, it's 50% of Google's search traffic. So they've got no choice, really, have they? I think Apple could probably demand more.
Yeah, and there are two ways where this goes, right? Either Google can pull the plug, and Apple goes, actually, this is probably best for us as well, but we just keep it as Google. Because I think I put it kind of sarcastically. What are they going to do? Change it to Bing or Baidu? Like, really? I mean, not Baidu, but you know what I mean.
I imagine they would change it to DuckDuckGo. I would imagine.
Most likely, yeah.
Because there was a point where they were kind of falling out, and I think one of the iOS updates, if you installed it from like a factory reset, I believe it set it to DuckDuckGo for a little while, before sending it back to Google. But I would imagine they would go DuckDuckGo, because obviously they don't like sharing user data and stuff anyway.
Yeah, and the second question it raises, because Apple went down this route with the Maps path. If this drives so much money to Google, why don't they just make their own search engine?
Revenue, I would guess. I mean, Apple don't do any advertising and stuff. I mean, they got rid of iAds and stuff like that a long time ago. So it would, They could certainly do it. I would imagine that they could do it, but they wouldn't be able to do it as well. But I suppose they did it with Maps, didn't they? Which was a colossal mistake. Although it's spectacularly better than it used to be. I still use Google Maps on the iPhone because it's just easier to find local stuff more than anything else. Yeah, I can't see a reason for Apple to do it themselves.
Yeah. Unless it is sort of, and I think the reason Google are so willing to pay $3 billion a year is because it is more than they're making, right?
Yeah.
If they were only making $2.5 billion per year off these searches, they wouldn't be going, yeah, let's pay that money. They go, it's cheaper for us not to.
I mean, there's what, 1.5 billion iOS devices out there now, or something ridiculous. Anyway, I mean, they sell tens of millions of the newer version of the handset like each quarter, so it makes sense. They're definitely making more than $3 billion off that, because that's a few pennies on the user, isn't it?
Yeah, and and the thing, the statistic that I found more interesting than that was the fact that it's roughly 5% of Apple's operating profits this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive slice of the services that Apple make. I mean, I think they reported quite a lot of revenue on the services. I think it was about 12 billion this time around. But the operating profits and stuff, I mean, it's pure profit, isn't it? Because, like I say, it's money for doing nothing.
Yeah. It's not like creating a new iPhone where there's R&D. It's literally Google go, hey, if we give you $3 billion, can you change that one line of code that defines the default search engine?
It's not even that, is it? It's like, if we give you $3 billion, can you just carry on doing what you're doing anyway?
That's a good point. Just keep it up.
Yeah, and it's the default. It's not, you can't change it. It's just the default. I mean, you could change it to Bing if you really wanted to, but would you really want to?
No. I remember Bing released Bing It On like 2-3 years ago, and their whole thing was you type in like a search and it would give you a blind list of results, like 2 sets of results, one from Google, one from Bing, and you'd pick which one you liked more. Their aim with this being that you'd click the Bing ones more and they'd go, hey, look, turns out you prefer Bing to Google. Yeah. The issue being they don't have the same, I forget what Google calls it. The knowledge graph. Is that it? Is that something like that? So they don't have that same thing. So I'd go on to Bing It On and type in like, how old is Barack Obama? And I'd get that, like, that'd be like the first thing that pops up. And in Bing, it just wouldn't come up at all. So without fail, I'd go like 5-0 to Google and maybe like, oh, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, I think a few years ago, they also proved that Bing were, I don't know whether they still are, scraping most of the results from Google anyway. I think Google put some fake search results in and they started mysteriously appearing on Bing.
That is, oh God. And yeah, I think that's, there's Tom Scott. This isn't tech related, but the topic is, the video isn't. Tom Scott did a great video about fake addresses and fake streets, right? Yep. Where for copyright reasons, how do you prove that someone didn't copy your map, right? You put in a bunch of fake streets, and when you go, well, they have those fake streets, you go, they copied it. And there was a very similar situation.
They used to do that from like old timey maps. That was how you proved that certain cartographer did it.
And Google did a similar thing. So Google did that with their Google Maps, and then there was a city that was also on Bing Maps or something like that. And Google goes to sue Microsoft and goes, guys, you copied our maps. And Microsoft go, no, we didn't. And Google goes, no, you did. Look, this city doesn't exist in real life. And Microsoft go, yeah, it does. Take a look. And what's happened is, because it existed on Google Maps, the city has formed around the Google Maps of it.
You're joking.
So people have seen this place on Google Maps and gone, I want to move there. And now that city exists.
You couldn't write that shit. Oh, sorry. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah. It's yeah.
We're not marked as clean.
Oh, yeah. I hope not. It'd be a slight issue if we were. It's we're very relaxed with that. We're like, if you swear, fine, just try not to. Like, if you're not swearing with every other word, then I'm sure we're good, right?
Yeah. You don't have to pull out the beep sound effect very often.
Yeah, if it's like one, like this, right? It's one swear word in a 1 hour. We'll probably work out to an hour and a quarter podcast. I'm sure we'll be fine.
I'm sure we will be fine. I guess while we're talking about iOS, can we talk about the like cop button that they're calling it?
We can.
Straight into there.
It's great, and I highly appreciate that they've done it.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what they were on about to start with. I saw a couple of tweets about pressing the home button 5 times, but yeah, in iOS 11, I mean, you have to press it pretty fast to get it to do it. It has to be sort of like you basically just do it as fast as you can, and it eventually pops up. It's like an SOS mode with medical ID and then emergency SOS, because you can set like a medical ID thing to ring certain numbers.
Yeah,
if you're having obviously a medical emergency or emergency SOS. But what this does also is it turns off Touch ID basically, so you have to do your passcode or your passphrase to log into the phone. So it kind of circumvents this. What they're calling a cop thing is there's a big debate in this country and in America over whether the police have a right to force you to use your fingerprint. And I believe there was a ruling to say that you had to give up your fingerprint, but not something that was in your memory. So basically you had to use your fingerprint, but you weren't at liberty to give evidence against yourself, i.e. disclose a password. I.e. if there was something in a safe, you had to give up the key to it, but if it was a combination, you didn't have to, because you were just as testifying against yourself. So obviously border patrols and stuff in the States are just going ridiculous, aren't they? Even normal Americans are being detained indefinitely, basically, and being forced to give over their passcodes and stuff like that. So Apple have introduced this button, which is probably one of the best features that they've ever done. And I have no doubt that it's going to be used all the time.
Absolutely.
For users going forward.
Android luckily has a similar thing where sort of when you go to unlock it, it's got the sort of little padlock on the lock screen. If you press and hold it, it turns off the fingerprint sensor. It does a similar thing. Yeah. And that was something I use just all the time, because it also works with a smart unlock. Or smart lock, I think it's what's actually called, where I have my phone set up so that if I'm home or if it's like in my pocket, for example, I don't need to enter my PIN. However, if it's sort of in the same location for 4 hours, or if I haven't unlocked the phone in 4 hours, then I do. But I'd have a similar thing where, I might be at home, but what if I'm stepping out the room and I have to leave my phone behind for whatever ridiculous reason, and I don't want people getting into my phone, right? I sort of, lock my phone, press and hold that little padlock, and it goes, password. I think it says like manually locked, PIN required, or something.
Yeah.
And that was a really useful feature. And the fact that if you wanted to do a similar thing on an iOS device, you had to restart it. Or wait 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that you can set up things inside there to do it. Obviously, if it's tried a certain amount of times, yada yada yada. But it just makes it easily accessible to the user, and it's great to know that Android has got a similar feature. And I mean, that should be out there and publicly known, really, because I mean, I'm probably sure it is amongst tech nerds. But yeah, it's really good to see Apple doing it. So it'd be good to get that. The Android version out in the public, because I mean this has been all over Twitter and letting people know that you can do this now in the beta. So there's no reason that they would take it away. But I suppose in theory they could do with the normal release. Yeah,
and I touched on it. I was like, there's nothing stopping them from taking it away. There's no reason for them to take it away though, right? It's not like Apple have put this in and then they're going to turn around and go, well, actually, we really like it when you use Touch ID.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty close. I mean we're on the 6th beta now, so it's pretty close to a release. You only usually get 7 or 8 if around the sort of time. So it's getting pretty close. So if they were going to take it out, I think they probably would have done by now. And
not only would they have taken it out, but they also wouldn't have put it in the first place, right? This is I think as of the latest beta, this now exists.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have put it in this close to the end if they were just going to tease you with it.
Well, let's hope not. I'm
let's
imagining somebody's going to tweet at me and go, well, actually, they put this in the 7th beta last time and took it back out again. But I don't recall them taking out something so late.
Yeah, especially not saying that, now that everyone's talking about it.
Yep.
Right. There have been features where, Android does a similar thing where there's been sort of a small quirky feature that I really like that's taken away. I'm like, yeah, of course, like no one else is talking about it. I'm not surprised as much. And I think Google Labs is a similar, like if you go into like any of Google's services, they have like a labs option where you can test features.
Test out and the things that are maybe a bit buggy, but are the cutting edge, shall we say.
Exactly. And I tend to turn on all of those because I'm all about the cutting edge.
Of course you do, yeah.
This is the guy who has the S8 ROM on his S7 Edge. Like, come on.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, your phone is not the average user's phone, is it?
No, absolutely not. And nor is his Chromebook, because it's currently on. There are 3 channels of Chrome OS. If you're not aware, there is the stable channel, which is where Google mostly wants you. There is the beta channel, which Google is okay with you being, and then there's the developer channel, which is where I am right now. And Google go, yeah, you have zero hope.
And you've chosen to podcast from that, remoting into your computer at home while it's on the developer version of Chrome OS.
So interestingly, I think Chrome OS is, and I mentioned this because I had it for about 10 minutes on stable before switching over to the developer. Like the first thing I did is put it to developer mode. And I think Google's definition of unstable, I think Google and Apple as well, their definition of unstable is, by a lot of other people's definition, quite stable. I've had one issue where one time I went to turn this Chromebook on and there was like a display driver issue, so I had to restart it. But that was on power up. That wasn't sort of halfway through a usage session. And that's happened once in the 2 months I've now owned this device. And it's been in developer mode.
To be fair, yeah, for developer mode, that's pretty stable, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's well done Google for being, even though it is developer mode, it is remarkably stable. And, as I put it to developer mode, I was like, this is probably a really bad idea. But it's been surprisingly good.
Luckily, I suppose, with Chrome OS, there's not that much stuff that can go wrong, other than drivers and stuff, I guess. Or features probably that aren't the core system requirements, I guess.
Actually, I've just remembered there is one feature that is wrong with the developer preview, the developer channel. One of the things they're bringing in is like a new touch-friendly launcher. There's a Chrome flag that lets you disable it. However, regardless of whether you enable or disable it, doesn't make a difference, because the way there's a bug currently that when you restart it, it will always switch over to the other one.
Right. Okay.
So it's currently, if I hit the search button, I'm currently on the new one, right? So I'm currently using the new launcher. If I was to restart my Chromebook, it would then be set on the old launcher again. And if I was to restart it again, I'd be back on the new launcher.
That makes sense. I like it.
I'm like, and it doesn't break any functionality, but even that, I'm just like, good job, Google. At least, like, how have you managed that, right? You have a flag for disabling the entire thing, and that does nothing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what you get for being a developer. Well, being on a developer preview.
Being a developer.
Yeah.
I was invited to an Amazon, because we have an Android app, and part of that is it's also on the Amazon App Store. So I'm commonly sent like developer emails. So Amazon were like, "Hey, come to our developer event," and I was like, "Oh yes, well I am a developer."
And sat there confused for the whole time.
Not that confused. It was a drinking event, so
Oh right. Right. Amazon, if you're listening, I'm also a developer. Invite me on drinking events.
Yes, absolutely. It was. They've actually got. We're going to do a video about it. This is the first Paul's heard about it. Actually, Paul, by the way, we're doing a video. Amazon have this thing called their loft. So for the Amazon loft, for like 2 weeks out of a year, they'll hire out this space, and it's free for all Amazon developers to just turn up, use all of their gear, and talk to a sort of solutions expert about an app you might be making, all of that jazz, completely free to everyone. It's great. And we're going there. And again, I was initially invited as an Amazon developer because there was an AWS event I attended, and they were like, hey, you look like the kind of person who develops on Amazon. Come attend our event, or come attend our loft session, which is a really weird name. But I was like, yeah, sure, but I'm kind of not a developer. I'm more press. And they're like, oh, cool. Turn up with your cameras and talk about it. And I was like, that's something I can do.
That sounds like my kind of thing.
Yeah, just turn up, talk about it, go home. So do you want to cover... Let's cover one more topic. It's 7 minutes past, and I don't want... we could probably talk forever, right? I'm sure we'd pull it off somehow. But I do need to rein us in eventually. And I think this is me reining us in. So you've highlighted the topic, so you can kick it off. This is Greg's topic of choice. Go for it.
I think I clicked on. I didn't realize I was choosing something. Okay.
Oh no! In that case, you can pick whichever one you want.
We'll talk about Microsoft Surface lineup. Yeah, they're really struggling. Was it Consumer Reports withdrew their recommendation for people just basically not to buy Surface lineups. It was all over the headlines for quite a while, but it's basically the Surface Book and the Surface Pro 4 that is bringing the kind of rates down for everything. The Surface Book had a pretty poor retention rate with hinges. They've got that funky hinge which looks atrocious. If you actually,
I love the look of that hinge.
I've only ever seen one person use it, and I was like, "That looks stupid." But each their own, I guess.
We did a review of the Surface Book. It's on the channel. I'm sure you can find it if you looked. But there's a solid 5 seconds of that review, which is just so Paul did the review in that case, and a solid 5 seconds of this review is just and the hinge looks gorgeous, and just moving the hinge up and down.
Yeah, so they had ridiculous amounts of issues with that hinge, and I think the Surface Pro 4 had real problems with the Kaby Lake processor,
yes.
Skylake. I can't remember which one it was.
Whichever one it was, and it's probably worth mentioning. A lot of laptops did because it was really bad at putting to power saving mode.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think there was a few stories of it being red hot in people's bags, and quite a few other stories of it not turning back on again, and all sorts of stuff. And obviously, with these massive problems with these two devices, it's brought down the kind of retention rates of all Surface hardware down to ridiculous levels. But if you actually look at the figures, it's not far off others. It's only a little bit more than people like Asus and Samsung and stuff. And if you took out those two devices, it would be more than acceptable. So the headlines, but it's one of those cases where the headlines, I guess, are not always what they appear. But they did have some huge problems with those two devices.
The one that got me was the Surface Studio. That thing has a 1.5% return rate. That people really love that thing.
Yeah, and I guess if you pay that much for it, you've got to, haven't you?
That too, yeah.
It was. Yeah, it does look like a really nice device. That's the Surface Studio.
It is. We were at another event. I think we were at a Microsoft event.
I'm getting the feeling that George goes to ridiculous amounts of events.
It's because they all have happy hour. I'm like, I can't say no to free alcohol. It's just
why not?
It's right.
So Microsoft, if you're listening, these are the events that I want to attend as well.
Yeah. I actually have a public calendar. I don't know what the link to is. Go to, unless you're listening live. If you're listening to this on catch up, I've made a link by now, but it doesn't exist currently. Go to snpy.tech/calendar, and you can see I have a public calendar that isn't very public until the moment I just said it, where you can see a bunch of events that we're thinking of attending. Most of them have happy hours. That's how you get us in on this thing. Happy hours and press passes are the two things we ask for, and we'll turn up. but yeah, so we tried out the Surface Studio in a Microsoft event, and it was really cool. It was the zero, what's it called? The zero gravity hinge, I think they called it, was really awesome. The fact it sort of went all the way down and you could draw on it. I'm not very artistic, and neither is Paul, who also played around with it a bit. But we were both like, if we could do art, this would be fun, kind of deal. It's the kind of thing I imagine you like let a actually maybe not, it's a bit too expensive to let a 5-year-old loose on it.
Yeah, it's definitely too expensive to let a 5-year-old loose on it.
Because it has sort of that finger mode, right, where you can turn it on so that it touching with your fingers treats it like a pen. So if you have sort of multi-person presentations and you only have one pen, then you sort of turn that on, and then everyone can draw with their finger. And it has I'm not sure about the Surface Studio, but I know that the Surface hubs have 100 points of touch,
right?
Which is a bit much in my opinion. But that thing costs like 15 grand, so I guess it kind of has to.
Yeah, it definitely has to.
So where you have 10 people with both hands really going at it and still not maxing out the display driver on that thing.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And you have the space for it, I guess, because the larger one of those is 85 inches or something. That is a ridiculously large display.
Yeah, so you have to have loads of room and be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where we're gonna wrap it on that. Greg, thanks again for coming on. So if people wanna hear more about you, right? Where's the best place to do it?
I guess Twitter. I'm at GR36. You can go to my blog, although I don't post a lot at the minute. GR36.com.
Unless you throw phones across.
Unless I throw
car
phones
parks,
across car parks. Yeah, I'm trying to get more back into writing. I've fallen out of love with it a little bit, but I do enjoy podcasting. I have I guess a more Apple related podcast called Bring Your Own Device. We don't just talk about Apple things, but we try and kind of talk about everything, but kind of, I mean, I'm an Apple fan. I'm not going to deny it. There's no two ways about it. But myself and Nathan, we just kind of talk about tech for an hour and stuff like that. So we're available in all podcast catchers that you can think of, but you can head over to byodpodcast.com if you really want to and find all the links from there. But yeah, it's been good. I enjoyed being a guest on your show and rambling about, I guess we talked about a little bit of tech for a bit.
Yeah, at some point there was tech being discussed, I guess.
I'm sure that, there was phones in there somewhere, I remember.
In between the good topics, we were talking about tech.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were. But no,
it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. It's you are I don't know how to phrase this without insulting Paul. You are our first sort of real guest, I guess. Paul, I love you all, but you don't really count as a guest when you have the second. I think he has the most viewed video on this channel, and I'm like, dude, it's great having you on, but you're not really a guest, right?
I guess not. No, does he count as an occasional co-host?
I guess so. Yeah, I think that's the closest thing to it, right? Like Paul, you're great and all, but you're not really a guest. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah. I've had loads of fun. Anytime you want me back on, holler.
Oh, I will. Don't worry. But no, again, check him out on Twitter, his website. We're here every Sunday, 8 p.m. British summertime, which, to my detriment, is currently midnight Georgian time, because commitment. So come check us out.
Right in the middle of Game of Thrones in America.
Is it? Oh no!
Yeah,
what have I done?
So.
Oh, I am so sorry to all the. Actually, there's no more Game of Thrones. Last week was last episode.
No, there's 7
episodes. Oh, they're 2 left. Damn it! I was really hoping I was right on that. I'm not a Game of Thrones person, as you can tell.
Right, that's it. We can no longer talk. That's it. Where's the mute button? Where is the mute button?
So yeah, subscribe for more podcasts and videos, and there's loads of stuff coming soon. Go do that. 8 p.m. British summertime every week. smpy.tech/links to find all of our stuff. Go check out Greg. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.